Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talks to Go, the best damn podcast you've never heard. How are you
I
today?
am great.
Nice and sun-kissed.
Sun-kissed. Got a
Yep.
little bit of color because we're away last
A
week.
little bit of serotonin, a little bit of vitamin D, a
Yeah,
little bit of sun. Maybe we look like we have life brought back into us a
we
little
were in the
bit.
great state of
The
Massachusetts.
great state of Massachusetts. We were away last week for the 4th. We had a pretty awesome trip. We'll recap it a little bit because some interesting things happened
hmm
and went down. And yeah, otherwise, is there anything else you wanted to
No,
quickly
I think
mention
let's
before
let's get
we?
right into it because
Okay.
there were some very I'll call it interesting twists and
Yeah,
turns.
100%.
Yeah,
So we were away for 10 days,
yeah,
9
something like
days,
that.
something like
Yeah,
that, whatever, it doesn't matter. And we started our trip in Nantucket, which none of us had ever visited. My dad, my mom, and I, none of us had ever been
we've
to
been to.
Nantucket.
I'd been to Martha's. Whoa,
Marthers?
whoa. Martha's Vineyard a
Yep.
couple of times.
Yep. And I've been
We had
once.
been there all together as a family once,
Yeah.
but had never been to Nantucket.
Never been to Nantucket, so was really excited. And the funny thing is that leading up to the trip, and it's probably because your phone listens to you, but my TikTok feed was giving me people just in Nantucket and the locals being like, stop coming to Nantucket. Like, the island is so small. Stop, infiltrating our island, blah, 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 which I understand. And similar thing happened in the Cape, but we'll get to that later.
Cape
But
Cod,
yeah, Cape
yeah,
Cod, not Cape May
right.
or Cape Town, South
Or
Africa.
Cape Fear,
Exactly,
yeah.
Cape Cod. So we started in Nantucket. So that was kind of nice because we were there before the 4th of July rush, which I really liked. So it didn't feel as crazy or as busy. But initially, we drove to like the end of Massachusetts in Hyannis,
Hyannis.
and then we took the ferry, the high speed ferry over to Nantucket. And my mom has friends who live in Nantucket, have lived there for many, many years, and she knows these people through a past job she had working at Bloomingdale's
No,
and
Macy's.
Macy's.
Yeah.
Sorry, she's worked at both, so I always
Yes.
get
Yeah.
confused which friends are from which department store. But yes, so they knew each other back in the good old days and lived in
Texas.
Texas together. And him and his wife have lived on Nantucket for many years, so they pretty
In fact,
much
got
know.
married and honeymooned there.
Decided to honeymoon there
Yeah.
and decided to go back ever since, and eventually got a house there. Was there before it became TikTok famous or super popular or what have you. But last minute, my mom was texting with him, and him and his wife were like, yeah, we'll come and pick you up from the ferry.
Well, we'll give them a Jay and Robin.
Yeah, so their names are Jay and Robin. Shout out to Jay and Robin.
Yeah.
Showed us a good time on Nantucket.
And graciously and generously
Yeah.
picked us up at the ferry.
Which felt, really, really lovely because
Yeah.
otherwise, our place where we stayed was very close to the ferry and very close to town, but it was very lovely of them. We had a lot of luggage and stuff, so it definitely would have been a trek to bring all of our things to the hotel. But we got picked up by Jay and Robin, and we hop into the car, and immediately they're like, oh yeah, our friends are having a party, would you want to come by? It's very casual. And we're all sitting in the back seat looking at each other, especially my mom and I, looking at each other saying, we literally look like absolute crap. When I'm traveling, I
Right.
don't.
Well, yeah, I got to put in a little perspective. We had driven now for about
Yeah.
5.5 hours to get to
Yep.
Hyannis.
Took a ferry.
Then another hour on the ferry.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I like to be comfortable when I'm traveling. And I also, if I know I'm not going anywhere immediately after getting off the plane or getting out of a car or what have you, I usually don't like to wear makeup because I don't want to just, cake on
I
my
get
face
it.
if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So I don't look my most presentable when I'm traveling. And maybe I should, because, maybe I'll meet my husband on a plane, but,
You never know.
you never know. But yeah, so I don't feel my nicest self when I'm traveling, especially this time. I had greasy hair. I was planning on washing it the next day. My hair's in a ponytail. I'm wearing leggings and a t-shirt and a little zip up hoodie. And, my mom's wearing like athleisure. And what were you wearing?
Viore pants.
Viore pants.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
I mean, what is this like? This is like we're throwing all the brands out
Outfit
here,
of the day.
right?
Yeah. So
yes, we are looking for sponsors. Yeah.
anyway, we were just sitting in the back of the car looking at each other like, oh, okay, cool. Like, we'll
from the get-go, I was all in.
Yeah,
Hey,
you were gung ho.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, let's go to a Nantucket party. Let's dig ourselves into the Nantucket culture. And I was like, okay, sure. But
First of all, my attitude was a couple of things. One, you never know who you're going to meet at one of these things, right? Mm-hmm. Nantucket does in some way attract some A-listers,
sure,
right? So there was that possibility. Then, right or wrong, my attitude was, okay, while we may not look our best, are we ever going to run into any of these people ever again? Probably not. All right, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
And just the aura of attending a Nantucket summer house party.
Yep.
I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it sounded great. Yet, I didn't have a lick of makeup on. I just felt disgusting. I was like, did I even put deodorant on this morning? I knew I was going to be around a lot of people, and I like to be presentable. And so they're like, yeah. So then, we're heading. They were like, okay, first off, we're going to show you where we live. We're going to stop by our house. If you have to go to the bathroom, use the bathroom before we head over to the party, because they wanted to bring something over for the people who are hosting, whatever. Mm-hmm. So we get to their house, and they're like, are you sure you don't want to change? And we were like, no, it's fine, I guess. And we were like, how casual. And meanwhile, they looked more fresh than we did. They were like,
they were going to a Nantucket
party. They said, oh, you look fine. Right. And we were like, okay, fine, sure. And they also had a really cute King Charles Cavalier. And so whose name is Lancelot, and such a sweet dog. And so I forgot that dogs shed, because all the dogs I've had do not shed. So when we left the house, I had dog hair all over my leggings, and I was like, oh, just, this adds to the outfit. It's absolutely perfect. So then we're driving on our way back, and we're driving around their neighborhood first, and they're like, oh yeah, so this is where Belichick lives. And we're like, oh, cool. Just, super casual neighbors with Bill Belichick, and Jordan, his girlfriend. And so then we pull up to the house, and it's this beautiful home with this huge backyard, and there's people, and people are starting to stroll in, and I see people, dressed in really cute outfits.
The best way I can describe it, I felt like I was in a Ralph Lauren commercial.
So there's been lately a lot of like wealthy East Coast summer TV shows that have came out recently, such as We Were Liars and The Summer I Turned Pretty, and what else? Just a lot of East Coast summer shows that follow the wealthy. And so I felt like I stepped into an episode of We Were Liars, and I was like, oh my God, I literally look like absolute crap. And I slapped on a little bit of concealer in the car and just did not look presentable. Like, the girls looked so cute, and the guys were in slacks and nice polos.
Most of the people, though, were
quarter
not your
zips.
contemporary. Most of the people, although
they were the people who were around my age, were probably like a few years younger than me or a few years older than me. Yeah. Maybe a couple that were my age, but and then a lot of adults, obviously closer in age to you. So I was just like, oh my God, I look so bad. And I brought so many cute outfits, and I couldn't wear one of these cute outfits to this freaking Nantucket house party. I'm like, this is how I'm showcasing myself to the island.
Eh.
Fabulous. Like,
But
so
you know
great.
what? In the long run, it was fine. Hey, listen, couple of things. One, the food was
The
amazing.
food, yeah. The
The
food
food
was
was amazing.
great. The people couldn't have been lovelier.
Wonderful, wonderful
Yeah.
hosts.
Yeah.
There was an actor there,
Yeah.
and shame, he's a character actor. I forget his name.
Yeah.
But as soon as I saw him,
He,
I said, this guy, yeah.
yeah, he was
I
in
recognized him.
Only Murders in the Building. So I
Yeah,
looked up some of his
he's
credits.
been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely really cool, and such a beautiful home and a beautiful backyard, and
Quite frankly,
really
I was
lovely
hoping
people.
we might run into somebody who might be a candidate for Talks to Go, but that didn't
Well,
happen.
we sort of did.
Well, not at the party.
Not at the party.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, not at the party.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of how we like bam came off the ferry. An hour later, showed up to a Nantucket house party.
Now, the other thing I think that we should mention, and
Yeah.
maybe you're going to get to it, but I'll throw it in here anyway.
Sure, go ahead.
And that is what we didn't know when we planned the trip.
Yeah.
Is that
Oh yeah.
that weekend
Yep.
was the Nantucket Film Festival, which apparently is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. You know, we come from a town where we host a really big film festival, the Montclair Film Festival.
Pretty
prestigious.
prestigious,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I mean, it's not the Tribeca or South by Southwest, but it's like, I would say maybe a tier or 2 tiers below that. Like, it definitely pulls in celebrities, and Stephen Colbert, who's a local guy here, he hosts a lot of panels and one-on-one conversations during the festival. But no, yeah, we had no idea that Nantucket was known for hosting this really lovely film festival. So that was really, really awesome, and we'll
And by the
get
way,
into
who was
that.
ever in charge of the weather for Nantucket, you get an A+.
Yeah, thank you,
because
Mother
the weather
Nature.
was amazing, just
Yeah.
amazing, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Mother Nature. Was absolutely lovely. So yeah, as I was saying before, bam, pop right off the ferry into a really beautiful Nantucket house party, and I'm never going to let Jay and Robin live it down
Okay.
that I had to show up in leggings and a
But you got to
hoodie.
put that
and,
aside because, like I said, they
No,
were so gracious.
it
They were
was-
so
yes.
generous.
No, it's I'm not blaming them at
Yeah.
all. It's my own internal being like, oh my God, I could have looked so much nicer. But besides the point, we had a lovely time, as you said, and that's how we started off our wonderful trip in Nantucket. And then immediately the following morning, my mom and I went to this beautiful event. If anyone is a big reader, there's a well-known author. Her name is Ellen Hildebrand, and she is a local to Nantucket and is the biggest author to come, one of the biggest authors to come out of Nantucket, and basically has written like 30 plus books. A lot of them take place in Nantucket, and probably a majority of them. And so the Nantucket Film Festival was hosting a panel featuring Ellen Hildebrand, where it was a conversation of bringing her work from book, adapting from book to screen. And if you haven't heard of this one TV series that was adapted, it's based on her book, The Perfect Couple. It was on Netflix, starring Liev Schreiber and Nicole Kidman and Megan Fahey, and the list goes on and on and on. And so it was in this another beautiful Nantucket home in the backyard. And again, I felt like I was plopped into an episode of The Perfect Couple, or an episode of We Were Liars, or an episode of The Summer I Turned Pretty. And that I was definitely well more suited and dressed for and more prepared. And it was really cool. It was a panel with Ellen hosted by this woman from Variety and a bunch of like top executives and producers from Peacock and NBC and people who were involved in Ellen's projects. And that was so cool. As someone who's like an avid reader, I've only read The Perfect Couple, so I'm trying to dig my heels into Ellen Hildebrand, but it was so cool. And it was like, wow, I'm living the quintessential Nantucket life right now. I went to a Nantucket house party the night before. I got to see Ellen Hildebrand the following morning. So yeah, I was living my best Nantucket life.
And then while you and
Yeah.
Mom were at that
Yeah,
event,
while we were happening, we get a text from you which
yeah.
said,
Well, I decided to take a stroll into what they refer to as town.
yeah, you decided
which is
to
the
not
little
to,
business
yeah,
district
yeah,
on Nantucket.
yeah,
And I got into the general store, interesting little place. And what's really nice about Nantucket, I must say, and other towns should take a page out of their book, there are countless benches
yeah,
on the streets where you can sit. And I love that.
correct.
Absolutely love that. Right? So there happened to be a bench outside, a couple of benches outside the general store.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, just taking in the sights, maybe, reading something on my phone, whatever. And I look up, and coming across the street, walking towards me, is none other than Ben Stiller
Yep.
and his wife.
Yep.
Now, the reason why
Casual.
Ben Stiller
Again,
happened to be there,
casual.
as we found out, is he is very much involved with the film festival.
Yep.
I think he's on the I'm
Like
gonna call it the board
board.
of directors, but
Yeah.
he's a big deal with the film festival. So I had this little, I'll call it a fantasy. I'll say that, and I don't know whether he and his wife went into the general store, but
Yeah.
I'm fantasizing that, and I'm hoping they did, and that they're going to come out, and that they're going to sit on the bench next to me, and I've got it all plotted out that I'm going to say, hey. Really, it's a bummer how your Knicks, he's a big New York Knicks fan.
Yep.
Didn't prevail in the playoffs. So I start to engage him in a conversation, the purpose of which would have led to inviting him and his daughter Ella to be guests on the podcast. Well, that didn't come to pass.
No. Not then
didn't
and
come to
there.
pass.
Not then and there.
Not then and
It
there.
didn't live
Correct.
up to its full potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And in fact, I never did see him again in the in the course of time that we were spent on the island.
Yeah.
But that was kind of cool.
No, it was cool.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Speak the again, I call it town. Town in Nantucket is really some restaurants, shops.
Ice cream.
Ice cream is great. We're going to give a couple of shout outs.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Juice Bar.
Yeah.
One of the iconic
Ice cream
places on Nantucket.
Yeah.
You and Mom went to another one, Charlie
Jack
and
and Charlie's.
Jack and Charlie's.
I think. Yeah.
I didn't indulge in theirs.
Yeah. Went to Lemon Press for breakfast a couple mornings.
A lot of great places.
Yeah.
A lot of great,
Really good.
incredible French restaurant. One of the best meals I've had. The best, without a doubt, lobster bisque I've ever had. Wasn't creamy. It wasn't your standard creamy lobster.
It was more of
bisque,
like a brothy.
But there was I can't even say bits. There were chunks.
Ew, I hate that word.
But there were chunks
I know,
of
I
lobster
just don't like that word.
in the lobster bisque.
Yeah.
It was like eating
Lobster.
lobster. Right. The soup that eats like a meal.
Yeah.
This was it.
Well, if it's going to be called lobster bisque, you assume there's going to be lobster.
I know, but
but a lot of the
all
times
different
there's
types
not.
of
I know.
lobster bisque.
I know.
This was the creme de la creme without there being creme.
Correct.
The place was lovely. The service was great. The people were fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a very, very enjoyable dining experience.
Yeah. No, Nantucket
Yeah.
is a
I
beautiful
think it's called,
town.
just want another shot. I think it's called La Languedoc.
I don't know.
I may be mispronouncing it. Maybe we'll tag them. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
don't know.
I'm sorry.
We're definitely
to the
butchering
to
it.
the owners if I butchered the name.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic.
We're definitely butchering it
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, no, it's definitely a place we will go back to. And those were the first few highlights. But I don't remember what night this was. Was this the first night?
First or second?
First or
it couldn't have
second-
been the
or
first. The first
third?
time we went to the party.
Right. Not
Yeah.
the first night.
So
Second
probably
night?
The second
okay.
night.
The
Yeah.
second night, we went to this restaurant called Lola 41, and the food was absolutely delicious. And we're walking out. You and Mom decided to go to the bathroom before we walk back to the hotel. And I'm standing outside the front of the restaurant, and these couple of couples So two couples are about to walk into the restaurant, and they're standing there at the front. And at this restaurant, it almost looks like a house a little bit from
Yeah.
the outside. The facade looks like a house. So there's these big windows on
Picture
either
windows,
side. Yeah, and
that
the
face the street.
blinds are up so you can see who's inside the restaurant. And at this point, I'm just on my phone waiting for my parents, and I overhear this couple talking, and they're like, oh, we show up to this restaurant, and guess who the first people we see on the right is in the window? Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan. And my ears perk up, and I'm like, huh? And I knew that, obviously, Bill and Jordan lived on the island because, a couple nights before, our friends Jay and Robin were like, yeah, Bill and Jordan are neighbors, blah, blah, blah. So then I immediately turned to the left. I look through the window, and who do I see at the table? Bill and Jordan. And you come out of the bathroom. I tell you, you're like, huh? And you are so not discreet with trying to look at people. So I'm like, Dad, please be discreet. And meanwhile, you can clearly see them through the window, but no, you had to go into the restaurant to double check that it was them.
Because to be honest with you, I had a hard time seeing them through the window.
Fair enough. It was a dark restaurant.
And I just wanted to
double confirm that it was
myself.
them, and it was them for sure.
It
So
was a Belichick sighting.
Yeah, we got 3 checks of a quintessential Nantucket experience. Saw Ellen Hildebrand, went to a Nantucket party, saw Bill and Jordan,
Ran into Ben Stiller.
Does
it get
went
any
to the
better
film
than
festival, Nantucket Film Festival, went to the juice bar. How do we top, going back the next time?
I love Nantucket. I would definitely go back.
Yeah,
I really
for
did
sure.
enjoy it.
And I think we said, the next time we go to Nantucket, I think it would be really fun to do an Airbnb or rent a house because it was perfect this time as being our first time. We stayed at a hotel that was like a 10-minute walk to downtown.
Let's give a shout out to the hotel, the Beachside Hotel.
Yeah, Beachside
Really, really
Hotel,
nice.
really lovely hotel. And if you want to stay not in town, but a little bit outside of town, it's literally perfect.
It's a 10-minute walk.
10-minute walk.
Not drive, walk into town.
Correct.
Yeah. So we got a lot of steps in.
Got a lot of steps in. Yeah. If you want to get a nice walk in before dinner, after dinner, it's great. Just make sure you wear comfortable shoes. I got my fair share of blisters on this trip. But I think next time renting a house would be really fun. And I think if I took a shot every time I saw a Jeep or saw a Land Rover or saw
Jeep is definitely the car du
or
jour.
saw a Bronco on the island,
du jour.
I would literally be so freaking wasted. Anyone and their mother has a Jeep. In fact, Jay and Robin, our friends, have 2 Jeeps parked in their driveway. They picked us up in a Jeep. I was in Jeep heaven because if anyone knows me, from the time I was in middle school, I always told my parents, I was like, my dream car is a Jeep Wrangler. It's a Jeep Wrangler,
Yeah.
And there was no shortage of Jeep Wranglers.
Yeah.
And, I would absolutely thrive in that environment. So it'd be really fun to go back, rent a Jeep Wrangler or a Bronco, stay in a house, kind of live a little bit more like a local, maybe explore the other side of the island a little bit. But no, it was like the perfect first time in Nantucket. It was a very good, more than expected introduction to the island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so
anything
we were
else? Anything else you want to add
No,
to our first part of the
I think
trip?
you did a good job.
Also a lot of dogs. Have
Yeah.
to mention that. So many dogs on the ferry.
Particularly golden retrievers.
Yeah, that's just the dog of a lot of that's not even southern. Wow. I'm just thinking of South Carolina. That's like the
Beach
dog
communities.
Yeah, beach community.
Yeah.
Because, they like to bring their dogs to the beach. And a lab and golden are known for being good swimmers. So, a lot of big dogs. Yeah, and that was
So-
the first part of our trip.
Yes, and then we made our way
Back
to
the ferry.
the ferry, hour ride back to
Hyannis.
and drove a little bit to where we were staying in Yarmouth.
Yep. Which is
And,
Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
Yeah. And we've stayed in Cape Cod a couple times before, but we have stayed on the
on the bay side,
the northern
not the
part.
ocean side,
Correct.
but the bay side
Yeah.
of the Cape.
Not that we had an ocean view this
Right.
time,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's okay. We stayed in a different part of Cape Cod, and to be honest, I didn't have like a lot of memories of Cape Cod. I only remember certain bits and pieces of it. So I think this time we definitely explored a lot more than we had in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, last time we went up to Provincetown, we decided not to do that.
It's a far ride
But
too.
yeah, but we did take in other towns. Chatham is beautiful.
Love.
We had
Shout
an
out
opportunity
to
to hang out at the
Chatham
Bars Inn, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous resort.
Highly recommend. Like
Yeah.
even if you're not staying there, take a trip
We
there.
had drinks on the veranda.
Yeah, it's set on the water, and they have a bunch of Adirondack chairs and a nice little
Beautiful.
patio, and you can just go for the afternoon, for the morning, literally whenever you freaking want to, get a drink, get some snacks. It's well worth the trip for sure. Yeah.
Also, we strolled through the town of Harwich. Right?
Harwich, yep.
Harwich.
Yep.
Again, very, very nice.
Yeah.
And particularly, being there 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
These towns, you got to remember, this is the heart of colonial America, right? Massachusetts.
Yep.
No shortage of American flags, right?
No.
And what was really neat was, I think it was in Chatham. Yeah, Chatham. We're walking through the town.
No, we're driving through the town.
Well,
No, initially when we were driving, are you talking about the chairs?
Yes.
Yeah, we were initially driving through the town.
But then we walked.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
and we walked.
Yeah.
And along the main street, which I think is Main Street.
Yep, it is Main Street.
There were all of these lawn chairs collapsed.
Yep.
And blankets
Yep.
just laid down. And what we discovered, these people had established their positions. The owners of these chairs and blankets had established their positions for the July 4th parade.
Yep.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And we made a joke of it because obviously when you're in Cape Cod, you want to do a beach day, and we didn't bring our beach chairs with us because it was going to take up too much room in the car. So we were planning on renting chairs and umbrellas and everything when we got there. And as we were driving through Chatham initially, we were like, oh, why are the chairs out? So we joked around that maybe we were going to rent a few chairs off of the sidewalk. Borrow. Yeah, exactly. Not take, just borrow a few chairs. And then it kind of hit us and we were like, oh, tomorrow is the 4th of July, or in 2 days it's the 4th of July. And this is why people have put their chairs out. And I totally forgot when I was packing, I spaced out that we were going to be there during the 4th of July. Like, I'm such a freaking idiot. And I didn't pack. And I recently bought all of this red, white, and blue clothing. So I guess today I decided to bring Cape Cod to the podcast. I decided to bring Independence Day to the podcast, make up for not being so patriotic during actual July 4th. So that's why we're dressed like this today.
Yeah.
But no, Chatham, beautiful. Harwich, really cute. Yeah, those were some of the towns that we went back to a few times.
A real taste of Americana. Speaking of that, another thing that we did, which really smacks of Americana, we went to a drive-in movie.
We did go to a drive-in movie.
In Wellfleet, another town in Massachusetts on the Cape.
Yep.
And we decided to take in, it was a double feature, but we only stayed for one of the two.
Yeah, because they start the first movie really late because they have to have the sun go down, obviously.
So the film doesn't start until around 9:15, something like that, right?
No, it was like 8:30.
Was it that?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
8:30.
All right.
Yeah.
But wow. I hadn't been to a drive-in in years, and this was the first time that you and Mom had ever been to one.
Never been to a drive-in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
quite an experience.
It's an experience.
It's an experience for sure. I mean, this one was really, really cool because, it was massive. Like, the parking lot was massive. The screen was massive. And they had a snack bar with anything and everything you could ever want. Like,
real throwback.
It was crazy. They had 3 different sizes of popcorn. They had chicken nuggets, hamburgers, hot dogs, fries, so many different candies, so many different kinds of ice cream. all the different sodas. Like, you literally had the pick of the litter for any type of movie food that you could have wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, I mentioned earlier that we had spectacular weather, and
Yep.
we did.
Yep.
For the most part. However, this night, and it was probably fitting given the nature of the film we saw, which was Jurassic
World
Rebirth.
Yeah, the new Jurassic.
The new film.
Yeah.
When I say a torrential downpour,
Yep.
I mean there were trees lining the drive-in theater.
Mm-hmm.
Massive trees.
Yeah.
And man, they were whipping.
They were whipping. And initially, as we were walking back from the snack bar, like 10 or 5 minutes before the movie started, people who do this are definitely a lot of locals, and they know what to bring,
And
what
what
to
they
set
do
up.
is, for those, it used to be pickup trucks for the most part. Now it's SUVs.
Yeah.
So they would back into their space.
Yep.
Flip open
Pop
the
the
hatch.
trunk. Yep.
Yeah. Flip open the hatch and then watch the film
in the hatch. Or
right?
they would bring lawn chairs and sit in front of
outside
their
the car.
Yeah. So a lot of people were sitting outside for the movie to begin. And this was probably like an hour into the movie.
Heavens opened
They
up.
opened. And literally you could see people rushing to like get back in their car and put all their stuff in the car. And obviously, it's not the most comfortable thing to be sitting backwards to be watching a movie inside your car. So all of the taillights were off, and then you see all of the beams go on, and the cars are starting to flip around, and it was funny.
In fact, it got so bad that some people decided to leave.
Yeah. And our car was shaking.
Yeah.
At some point.
It was being buffeted by the winds, no question.
Yeah. And it definitely added to the movie because I don't want to spoil anything, but this is definitely not a spoiler. It's like, large animals and dinosaurs and stuff. And at one point, there's a dinosaur that sideswipes a boat, and it almost felt like a 4D movie where you were feeling the effects, seeing the effects, watching the effects. So it was definitely an experience I'll never forget. Yeah.
Other highlights?
Highlights.
I definitely, again, name dropping places we've eaten. I got to do this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We found a breakfast place. I think you
Oh
do.
my God,
And
yes.
You did.
Yep.
I will credit you. It's in West Yarmouth, about a half a mile from where we were staying.
Yep.
It's called Ann and Fran's.
Yep.
ANN and Fran's.
Yep.
FRAN''S.
Yep.
Incredible.
So good.
So good that we went back
3 times.
3 times.
3 days in a row.
3 times. The food, terrific.
Impeccable.
The service,
Impeccable.
terrific. The ambiance,
Impeccable.
very nice.
The wait, not crazy.
Not crazy.
Yeah,
Not
they'll
crazy.
tell you like 30, 35 minutes, 35 minutes, 40. No, it doesn't feel that long.
So if for anybody who is contemplating or going to take a summer vacation on Cape Cod and you're in the West Yarmouth area, definitely.
Or even if you're not in the West Yarmouth area, it's worth the drive.
It's worth the drive.
Yeah.
Ann and Fran's, fantastic.
So good.
Fantastic.
So good.
We're definitely going to tag these guys.
They had such good baked goods as well. Their blueberry muffins and
I'm a big in terms of desserts.
You're a blueberry hoe.
But not only that, but yes, I love blueberries. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But I also love key lime pie.
You're also a key lime hoe.
Now,
Yeah.
they had not key lime pie,
Yep.
but key lime pancakes.
Pancakes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
I didn't try them, but they looked amazing.
Oh, they were great.
And on our last day, we had to take some muffins home. You know, we had to have it live on beyond us staying in Cape Cod.
Yeah, now think of it this way and tell how good the food is. So we bought these muffins on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
It's now a few days later as we're recording this.
Yep.
I dipped into one of the muffins for breakfast this morning.
Yep.
Still fresh.
Still fresh.
Still fresh.
I know. You think
How
they would
good-
like dry out.
How good is that?
I know.
How good is that?
So good.
So again, kudos to Ann and Fran's.
Yeah.
Definitely got to get
So
back there
good.
someday.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
for sure. And then we did some mini golfing at the Pirates Cove, which was really, really fun. And what else?
Now, I will say this.
Yeah.
For as nice as it is to vacation on Cape Cod.
Yeah, let's talk about it. The leaving.
Oh my God.
No, and you know what? And it's so funny because I was on TikTok a lot because that's where I do all my research is TikTok. And that's where I find restaurants and coffee shops and things to do. It's like if they got rid of TikTok, I would be absolutely screwed. Like, honestly, that's how I plan most of my trips. And I had been seeing on TikTok people in the comments being like, can't wait for July 4th to be over so we can live peacefully as locals again. It is crazy how many people go onto the Cape for July 4th.
Well, and that becomes readily apparent as you're leaving the Cape.
Yeah.
This experience redefined traffic.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about traffic a lot,
and
because
I don't think I'm overestimating.
We're no strangers to traffic.
It took us about 5.5 hours to drive up there.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
When we drove to Hyannis to get the ferry.
Sure. I think I was asleep a lot of the time, to be fair.
I'm not over. I think it took us at least. Now, granted, we did stop a few times.
Yeah.
And we stopped in New Haven on the way home because we had to.
And we didn't leave.
Another shout out to Frank Pepe's Pizza in New Haven.
Yeah, but also think about it. We didn't leave at the most optimal time either.
True, but I don't think there is an optimal time
no,
when you're leaving the Cape,
I saw someone
on July 4th weekend.
No, I saw someone in the comments saying I left at 5 a.m. and we were chill.
Oh, okay. We weren't leaving at 5 a.m.
Yeah, no.
That wasn't going to happen.
Because we had to go to Anne and Fran's.
But I'm not joking. It must have taken us 10 hours to get home.
Yeah. It was insane.
If not more.
It was insane.
Oh my God.
And the thing is, we are no stranger to traffic. Like it takes us sometimes 2 hours to get to New York City. Yeah. We go out to the end of Long Island, not like the Hampton side, but the North Fork, which is the same distance, and we'll drive back from a long weekend. And, this experience happens every single Sunday.
Yeah.
And for people who live in Boston, this is kind of the equivalent to their version of the Hamptons, or that's how I feel. It's kind of like, because if you think about it, Cape Cod is sort of similarly shaped to Long Island.
Except
and
it's
how
crooked.
Yes.
It's
Similarly into how it
it's not straight, it's just an elbow.
But also it sticks out, and Boston is set on the mainland, whereas like New York City set on the mainland. And you have to drive out onto Long Island.
Similarities.
Yeah, so there's some similarities in that way. And a lot of the times there's like one way in, one way out, especially if you're driving out to the Hamptons. It's like a one road thing. So it felt very similar. And we've done that drive to and from Long Island many, many times. And we can experience like 4 hours,
what this
5 hours.
Me of, and I told you guys many, many, many years ago, I was in a share house in East Hampton. And it was I think it was Labor Day weekend. Yeah. Yeah, at the end of
one
Labor
of the
Day
bad
weekend,
weekends.
Driving back to New York City, it took me 7 hours.
Yeah. No,
because there's only essentially one way on and one way off Long Island, particularly that part of Long Island.
You hit the bridges.
And the same thing for Cape Cod.
And you hit the bridges and the Cross Bronx, and it can be an absolute drag to go out there, and it can take forever. And on a good day, it takes 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Okay, but enough.
This is not anywhere in comparison. It is much, much worse.
Yeah.
There are literally 2 or 3 roads to get out of Cape Cod.
That's it.
And there's so many merging lanes, and that's what holds up a lot of the traffic. And I'm going to probably have a lot of people from Cape Cod coming for me.
No.
And that's okay.
I think they know that.
Yeah.
But regardless, we had a great time.
Yeah.
Put a button on this. We had a great time. Loved Nantucket. I will definitely.
We'll definitely be back.
We will definitely go back.
Yeah.
It was a different Cape experience
Definitely.
for us, which was very enjoyable.
Yep.
Saw a lot of different things that we hadn't before. Gave us some ideas of where maybe to stay the next time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great. And the weather, again, room service. Couldn't have served it up any better.
No,
so
yeah.
Thanks to the big guy.
And I think we've learned now, time and time again, don't trust the weather app.
Yeah, do not.
Don't trust the weather app.
So with that said,
Well, really quickly before
yeah.
we put a bow on the baby, I don't think I was able to mention since our last episode, but as if you're a consistent listener to the podcast, I am a big F1 fan. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to like not talk about it before it feels irrelevant. I went to the F1 movie with some of my friends, and we decided to go see it in 4DX, which, if you don't know what 4DX is, that is an all encompassing movie theater experience where the chairs shake, water falls from the ceiling. You get hit in the back, in the side, in the legs. It's like stepping onto a roller coaster in a movie theater, and kind of the equivalent to it, but this was a little more rough and rowdy, is if you've been on Soarin' at Disney, where you're watching a screen and, you know, your chairs are kind of moving with what's happening on screen. This was insane. It was in the most insane movie experience I've ever had. Some of my friends had to go to the regular theater because the chairs were so rocky. And if you get motion sickness or car sickness,
Think of it this way: have you ever had to take Dramamine before you go before you
no,
watch a movie?
absolutely
Right?
not. Like, if you get car sick or
This is not
the experience for you. I don't recommend it. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised there's no waiver that you had to sign because it gets really insane. I'm not even kidding. Like,
or there weren't even any warnings, right?
No, but I feel like to be fair, okay, they started rocking the chairs while the previews were going on, so you kind of got like a little bit of a taste.
The reason I'm saying that is, typically, for example, when you go to an amusement park, and it's the type of ride that's, can get a little bit rocky, rolly, violent, whatever you want to call it. There will be a sign that says, look, if you have back problems or if you're pregnant or this kind of thing, proceed with caution or something along those lines. Evidently, there was nothing like that.
There might have been, but we didn't get to the theater late, but we weren't there like super early. We only saw a few previews. So maybe like, before you buy the tickets, there might have been, but I don't remember that happening. But yeah, it was quite the experience. And I think the funniest part is that water just falls from the ceiling. Like, if there was a rain scene happening while they were racing and it was raining, or if they were spraying champagne on the podium, like, it would drip a little bit of water down into your seat, and you were like, oh my God. And there's obviously like an option, not obviously, but there's an option on your chair where you can turn the water off or keep it on. And obviously I'm going to keep it on. Like, I want the full 4DX experience, and I was loving it. It felt like a good adrenaline rush. And after the end, I was like saying to my friend, I'm honestly surprised there were no seatbelts on the chairs, because that's how violent the chairs were shaking. And I think what's funny is the chairs were shaking, I think, a little more violently than maybe the drivers feel in the cockpit. Look, I've never been in an F1 cockpit, and I've only heard what they've said, but it was violent as hell. Like, it was crazy. I just sounded so Valley Girl then, but it was crazy. I've never experienced anything like that. And I went to dinner. We met up with our friends afterward who went to the normal screening, and I said to them, I'm surprised there were no seatbelts. And they were like, yeah, there were. They were just kind of like buried in the seat. And I was like, oh, that's really good to know. Really good to know. So yeah, it's definitely an experience I'll hold off on doing for a while, but it was really, really fun, and it was an all-encompassing experience, and I just really enjoyed it.
Okay, before we go, any obsession?
I think obsession right now is Wimbledon.
Okay.
Wimbledon is going on at the moment. I put my bracket in there again through the Nothing Major podcast. Absolutely erupted, but I think for a lot of people it did, because if you're not following Wimbledon, so many of the top seeds had fallen in the first round. Like, an unprecedented amount of seeds dropped, and so it busted so many people's brackets, including mine. I still have, some of the top dogs in there, but yeah, but it's been fun following it. And we still got a couple Americans in the quarterfinals. So I'm excited to see how Wimbledon wraps up.
Okay, my obsession of the week, undoubtedly.
Anne and France?
Anne and Fran.
Yeah, that was my second option.
No doubt. Wow, I miss it already.
Yep.
I miss it already.
Me too.
If nothing else, that's the reason to go back to the Cape.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and last thing, I have to give a shout out to Sunday school.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how can I forget Sunday school? And it's SUNDAE, not SUNDAY, but it's obviously a play on words. It's an ice cream place on the Cape in Dennisport.
And
yeah,
what we came to learn, there's also another one in Harwich.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's Harwich. Well, anyway, there's a second one. Yeah.
There's a second location. And it is some of the best ice cream, but what's really so good is their hot fudge, and they have this special marshmallow fluff whipped cream. Oh my God. And I had been talking to my friends being like, this ice cream is seriously the best ice cream, and I'm not even a big ice cream person, and it is some of the best ice cream in the hot fudge. Oh my God.
And
it
if
is
you
so
go,
good.
warning, they do not take credit cards.
They have an ATM
and they
machine.
do have an ATM.
Yeah. Also, the beaches only take cash. So when you go into the Cape, make sure you have cash with you.
Yeah. You need some green. Yeah.
Yeah. So
black and green.
Yeah.
You need some black and green.
Yeah. That is our Cape Cod, Nantucket, 4th of July recap episode edition.
And guys, we are still working on guests.
We have some coming up.
We have received 2 commitments.
Yes.
One of which will be appearing on Talks to Go probably sometime in September.
Yep.
The other one we're waiting to schedule. Hopefully they'll be our guests sooner than that. And but one last thing. Ben Stiller, we have reached out.
Yes, to his
because
daughter.
you saw something. We reached out to Ella.
She's currently
Stiller.
starring in an off-Broadway play in New York.
So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Yep.
You never know.
Yep.
You never know.
And with that,
guys, have a great week.
put a bow on the baby.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.